All right, guys. Today on the show, I have a person named Amanda Abella. I actually found Amanda through someone named Tom Ewer. I recently interviewed Tom, and I actually received an email from Tom's mailing list about Amanda doing some free coaching for her clients, and I decided to check it out. And I spoke with Amanda probably about a month or so ago, I want to say, and I decided to reach out and ask her if she wanted to be on the show. So today I've got Amanda Abella with us. Welcome.
Hi, I think it has it been a month already?
Yeah, maybe it was like 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, time is just flying by so quickly for me lately. It's like crazy to think it's already almost the end of the year.
I know, isn't that insane? I've heard that from a lot of people where like 2013 has been like insanely crazy for them, but in a
Yeah.
good way.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I guess if you want to like share your story and like how you got started, I know you do a little bit of everything in terms of like writing and obviously you're doing coaching and um, you've got your blog and you've got like a group community that you've got with people that you've invited onto your site and I know you've got like this what do you call it, like this the workshop, and you've got the Fire Up Your Life and these different, like, you've got a tribe here I see like on your site, like you've got all these things going on. Do you want to talk about like how this all kind of got started?
Okay, well, yeah, I am a coach, a speaker, and a writer, and what I do is I basically help people drop whatever bullshit is standing in their way, and from basically it's all the stuff that's keeping them from following their life's work, and I help them drop basically whatever isn't serving them. So for a lot of my clients, it's, quitting that day job that's standing in the way of their business, or I've had other people who have worked their way out of relationships they knew weren't working anymore to, pursue that career that they always wanted. And I've had other people who just had a simple idea like, hey, I want to facilitate some groups or some workshops to empower local women, but I have all this stuff standing in my way, and I help them get rid of that too. So that's the gist of what I do. That's the gist of what I talk about. And I guess this all started 3 years ago. Yeah, so I graduated from college in 2010, and I moved back home, was met with a 13% unemployment rate.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was insane, and I'm here, acting like one of those entitled Gen Y kids, like, oh, I have a private school education and a bachelor's in this, and I can't find a job, and it was pretty crappy, actually.
Yeah, no, I've been there.
So I basically spent like, 6 months without a job, and I moved back home, which back then was seen as like the worst thing a person with a college degree could possibly do. And I went 6 months looking for work, and I couldn't really find anything. I mean, it was dead, and I live in a huge metropolitan area. So my friend handed me a book. He handed me Chris Guillebeau's Art of Nonconformity. And I had like this major shift around the idea of work and life was something that I always wanted to do from that moment on. And I kind of vowed, I said, I'm going to make it happen. I don't care what I have to do. I don't care if I have to get a job for a while to make ends meet. I am going to work for myself one day, and I'm going to help other people view their lives in a different way. And at the time, I had no idea what that looked like. So I started this blog called Grad Meets World, which is how a lot of people knew me.
Yep.
And I started that blog because I'd just gotten my first job. I was freelancing on the side, making extra money. I had no idea how to handle my money, no idea how to handle careers, no idea how to handle relationships. I was like, wow, school didn't teach me shit.
Yeah.
So it was basically like my adventures in trying to answer questions for myself, like, oh, okay, well, how do you make a budget, or how do you ask for a raise, how do you move up the career ladder, with always that underlying theme of how do I work for myself, how do I make more money on my own. So it was a mix of things, and a few months later I got a job in recruiting. I worked for a placement agency in South Florida that specifically worked with like entry-level positions in college grads and placing them in Fortune 500 companies. And I remember sitting in the interview, my former boss was telling me like what this company does, and I looked up and I was like, I was like, okay, universe, this is weird because I've been writing about this for 6 months, so I took the job. I didn't even hesitate.
Right.
And I started off as a receptionist, and within a few months, I was interviewing people for these jobs. And we did a lot of advising and consulting and fixing resumes and, how to negotiate and teaching people how to do all this stuff while dealing with Fortune 500 companies and finding them candidates. I think by the end of my stint there, I interviewed about 2,000 people,
Wow.
which is a lot of people to be interviewing.
Yeah.
And it was a really cool job. I loved it. It was a lot of fun. Crazy stories, which kind of skyrocketed my blog
Yeah.
as I was sharing these stories that candidates were doing. But I realized that there was a really big problem with a lot of the people I was interviewing. I started noticing that people were pretty miserable when it came to the idea of careers. I had people who would just completely sabotage the interview and had no idea, just acting like complete jerks. I had other people who didn't know how to sell themselves in an interview. I guess they didn't have the self-esteem. And I had people who were making a lot of money, and I'm talking sometimes 6 figures, and they're still broke, you know?
Wow.
And everyone just kind of had this like Debbie Downer thing going around careers and work and living. And I would hear the craziest stories, like sometimes people telling me, my work broke my marriage and things like that. So I noticed this like very intense disconnect and this unhappiness that people had in the work area of their lives, and I started focusing more on like the whole human person instead of just how do I get a raise.
Right.
So that's basically how this came to be, and I found I started doing coaching because I was like, I've got something here, but I don't know what it is. So I hired my own coach, and I've been able to set up a business where I'm helping people just create the kinds of careers and the kind of work that they actually want to do and the kind of work that actually fits into their lives instead of what a lot of people have done where it's like their lives revolve around the work.
Yeah, exactly.
So I basically help people do the exact opposite, and I help them get rid of whatever's standing in the way of them doing that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know, like, obviously we did a call, and I've kind of got a lot going on, but I mean, I can tell, like, you've got a good thing going, obviously, to be helping people like this. It's definitely unique. I feel like there's not a lot out there like this. I mean, maybe I obviously I haven't really, like, spent the time looking, but it definitely, there's a need. Like, there's definitely a need.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there, and I have a lot of colleagues and I have talked about this. A lot of like entrepreneur friends. There's a lot of stuff out there about making like 6 figures in a year. Like, oh,
Yeah.
make a 6 figure salary in a year, or quit your job tomorrow, or and life isn't that easy, And I'm here like glass half full. Life is full of possibilities, but I'm also really practical, right? So instead of freaking out about how can I make 6 figures, if you don't really believe that's possible, it's not going to happen. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So a lot of what I help people with is just those mental shifts that it takes in order to eventually get that 6 figure salary. So they may not come to me in the beginning with a plan for making a 6 figure salary, but we kind of turtle step it, like, okay, how much do you need to make this month? Okay, how about the month after that? Okay, how about the month after that? And then we work our way up instead of doing something off the bat that you see a lot of online.
Right.
And I've heard from a lot of people, that it seems really like scammy to them, and that they've tried all these courses and they've tried all these things to quit their jobs or to get out of relationships or to get out of bad situations so they can actually do the work that they love. And they're not really getting that much out of it because everything seems very out of reach.
No, I can attest to that because I've been in that spot before, and I've been through, even for me, like I've been through some of those courses and things and felt, okay, like am I gonna, like there was a particular course I bought and it would have been great for like someone who was like going into this blindly, but like I sat there for like weeks and it was like all like stuff I had already known, like rehashed stuff that I had already like learned that past year.
Right. There's a lot of stuff for like really, really beginner people, and there's a lot of stuff for people who aren't beginners. But, and I was in that situation for a long time. I spent 3 years running, well, I'm still running the blog. I spent 2 years knowing that I had something, knowing, I'm making money here and there sporadically, but not knowing how to put all the pieces together. And when you're working a full-time job, you're kind of in this weird limbo area where you're like, I see the light at the end of the tunnel, but I'm stuck here and I know I've got something, but I don't know what it is and I don't know how to put it together. But I know it makes me money because it has made me money, and it's
Yeah.
like this really weird limbo area that a lot of people don't know how to deal with, and I help a lot of people through that because I was there myself. I know what it's like.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and like, I know for me, like, I've had a bit of struggles like getting started with something, but I think it kind of, for a lot of people, like, it sort of comes down to a focus too, like staying
Yeah,
consistent with something.
yeah, it could be focus. I have a colleague. What does she call it? Oh my gosh, I call it shiny object syndrome. She calls it oh, I can't remember. I can't remember. But basically, it's like shiny object syndrome. So a lot of what you hear is, oh, okay, well, you have to have X amount of Facebook followers, X amount of subscribers, X amount of Twitter followers. You got to have this email list. You got to update this many times a week. You got to, have passive income and have info products and have this service and that service and all these things, and it's really overwhelming because
Yeah.
people are like, whoa, what do I do?
Yeah. And
um, and those things work, they're fine. I mean, I've implemented all those kinds of things in my business, but what I realized was once I finally got down to a focus, that's when I actually started making money. I mean, I'm very much of the belief that it doesn't matter how many Facebook followers you have, because if you're not engaging with them and you're not actually talking to people, you're not making any money.
yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I know there's some people that like purely have used Facebook to like drive their businesses just by like building relationships. Some of the people I follow, I know that's like pretty big with them, but yeah, I mean, you could spend all your time. Like I've seen some people like get really big on like Google Plus. I interviewed a guy that like his whole world was Google Plus, and it's like you can get so focused on one thing and spend all your time with that. But um,
Right, and I call it, with a lot of my clients, I call it employee to entrepreneur syndrome. Um, and basically what happens with a lot of them is, we're very used to sitting at a desk
yeah,
and someone else is giving us a paycheck, and it's very structured, and it's a lot of paperwork. And if you're not busy, you better look busy. And if you're screwing around on Facebook for an hour, you still get paid for that hour that you were screwing around on Facebook. Totally not like that when you're running your own business or trying to do your own thing online. It's very easy to get hung up on the frame of, what does my website look like? How many Facebook followers do I have? I need to figure out Google Plus. I need to have videos on YouTube. It's very easy to get caught up in that stuff because we feel like we need all this stuff because
right.
everyone is telling us we need all this stuff. And at the end of the day, what you really need is what you said, to build relationships. All that stuff is helpful, but it's going to grow organically over time. That by itself is not really going to get you anywhere.
Yeah, one of the things that I've been hearing a lot about as of recently is a few of these bigger marketers. I know, um, I'll just give an example, and maybe you could attest to whether or not you think it's a good strategy. But I know one of the people I follow, Pat Flynn of the Smart Passive Income. He recently launched a what he calls the niche site duel, where he basically is building out, having people join him to build out authority or niche sites based on like a specific topic. So what he's been focusing on is he got this new focus where he's going to try to reach out to people who own and manage food trucks.
Ah,
So
that's awesome.
so his like main focus, yeah, it's pretty random, but like really where would you go find a resource about that? So he kind of came onto this niche, and he's not publicly displaying like his site, but he set up a landing page like like a welcome like coming soon kind of deal, and then he talks about on his blog where he emailed like 200 or 300 people and personally sent them emails like basically saying like here's what I'm doing, and it's very like a welcome email, like it doesn't sound like spam.
Yeah,
And
personal touches go a really long way. I've learned that in my business as well. Um, I mean, I've got autoresponders and all that kind of stuff because they're really helpful, but there is nothing like getting a very genuinely crafted email where you are actually concerned about the other person's well-being.
yeah,
That's what people respond to. They're not going to respond to like, make 6 figures in a year, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? If you have the capability to teach someone to do that, that's awesome. but you need to talk to them about it and not
Right.
bombard them with emails.
Yeah, I mean, I've been having like the most luck, like just communicating with people, like regular people, and talking to them like friends, and reaching out. And I guess the bigger thing for me, like that's how I've been able to get a lot of the interviews. Like I just reach out and say, hey, I want to have you on. This is going to be all about you, and then it's easy to go from there because I'm focused on them, and that's what I try to focus the interview show on, talking about what it is people are good at and what they can, bring to the table. Like bring what value can they bring.
Yeah, yeah, and that's an awesome way to meet people. And um, I actually, part of what I do with my private coaching is I also, for my private clients, I have like this super secret Facebook group that you can't even find. And it's full of people who've either coached me or my mentors or my resources, other private coaching clients. And that's just somewhere where these people can go for extra help and extra information, because sometimes what I hear from a lot of people is I don't know who to talk to. I don't know where to find people who, have the same ideas that I do, or I'm scared to send them an email. And I'm like, use the Facebook group. I mean, it's there for you forever,
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how long you coach with me. That group is there forever. You use it to your advantage, and I promise you, you're going to find your people.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I guess on the topic, obviously, do you kind of like want to talk a little bit about the coaching and like, kind of how that works and like, how that's helped people, maybe just like some information so people can like understand a little bit more about it?
Like what coaching is?
Yeah, yeah, maybe like, because I know we were talking before too, like some people might assume it's almost like therapy, but
Oh
that's
yeah,
not
no,
really
it's
the
not
case.
therapy. Okay, so coaching is actually a really cool modality that people use in the personal development field. And what the unique thing about coaching, well, there's two unique things. Number one, it takes you from your present moment, what is going on right now, where do you want to be, how do we get there? But it does that in a way where we as coaches kind of make the assumption that our clients know the answers. And they do. Every single time they know the answer. Our only job is to kind of help them get to it for themselves. And the reason that that works for people is because if I sat here and told you what to do, you would be less likely than if you came up to the solution by yourself.
Right.
So what we do is, and I'll help, obviously, and I do a lot more blended coaching because um, it's just like a industry term, I guess.
Yeah.
But because I've been in a situation where a lot of my clients are in right now, I mean, if I have the goods and I have something that I know is going to help you, I'm going to share it. I'm going to
Yeah.
spill my guts. But I'll let people know when I'm doing that, and I'll let them know when it's going more toward the coaching aspect. And with the coaching aspect, I always make the assumption that they know what that needs to get done. And every single time they do. Every single time my clients come to me and they know what they need to do, they know what they need to drop in their lives in order to make it happen, and they usually already know their next steps. My job is to kind of help them figure out, okay, well, are there any obstacles that you're not dealing with? I call them out a lot. A
Yeah.
lot of my clients will tell you that, like, if you're like beating around the bush on something and I kind of know you're beating around the bush, I'm just going to call you out on it. We're going to address it like right then and there.
Yeah. Just be blunt.
Just be blunt. I'm very honest with people, and I hold them accountable. That's a really big thing with people, that even people who do know what they want to do, where they kind of lack is the follow through and the plan of actually making it happen. So I do that as well. I help to hold them accountable. And I do this mostly private one-on-ones now. I am working on group settings as well.
Yeah.
So I've seen it work in both ways. Private one-on-one, obviously, it's very customized, very tailored to what one particular person is going through. And then with the group sessions, it's more like a theme of what these people are going through.
Right.
Yeah.
Finding a group of people that might be experiencing similar struggles, things like that.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm thinking of doing one, for example, of people who are in a situation I wasn't in that long ago. What we were talking about earlier is just like that middle limbo ground where you're not like this newbie to beginner to making your own money, but you're not able to quit your job yet, and you're kind of freaking out trying to figure out what comes next.
Right, right.
So I'm thinking about doing something in a group setting for people that addresses that particular issue because at least I don't know, maybe you have, but I haven't seen it addressed at all. So, so I
Yeah,
was like,
not a
there's obviously
ton.
something missing here.
Yeah, I haven't seen that a ton. I mean, I did. I went through. It was sort of like a beta course, and it was pretty interesting. I don't know if you watch or know of Mixergy.com.
Yes, actually, and I saw the guy who founded it. I saw him at WDS.
Yep. So I
Yeah.
recently interviewed him, Andrew Warner.
Yes, yes, he did a talk at WDS. He did an awesome talk. I was there.
Yeah, so I recently interviewed him, and I had been part of like a beta group course that he did. It was under 100 people, and it was very focused on this topic he calls the countermind.
Yes,
And he's
yes, we did
really big on.
exercises about that too. Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah, so it's basically like, I mean, I guess in a nutshell for anyone, I know if you had listened to the episode with Andrew, we talked about it very briefly, but it's basically, having thoughts in your mind where you're thinking like, oh, I can't do this, or I'm not good enough, or, like countermind thoughts. So I did like one group call, I remember, with like, I think it was probably him and maybe like three or four other people, part of that group. Like they met up one afternoon, and I joined the call, and I thought that was really interesting. Like because he just went around a circle, and it's like almost like a little session. Everyone gets to talk and talk about what's going on currently and what's working for them, what's not. Like just a whole like general idea of like what they're thinking about of the course, and it was really good. Like just to, and then obviously to be able to get to know him, like I kind of look up to him, especially since I'm doing these interviews. Um, and because of that, I feel like I was able to build like a relationship with him, and then ask him to join me to come on my show. So that was pretty exciting for me. But I definitely think I don't see a lot of like coaching or even one-on-one coaching being offered as much. And if there is, I mean, I feel like it's very a lot of stuff isn't very specific. Like it's just very vague in general. Like it's not like a main focus for people. But
Y- With the one-on-one coaching, you mean?
yeah, like well, some of the marketers that I follow, like I know of at least one that like he does an interview show like me, and I've done some calls with him personally. A fellow by the name of Mike Thomas of Mike from Maine, and I know he offers coaching like on his site, but that's not like what he does. Like that's really just like a side thing. Like it's not like a focus for him. Like he's not really
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot of people, what they do is, I call them, I'm not saying Mike from Maine does this, but a lot of people do coach salting. They're coach sultans.
right.
So if you know about something, and I'm all about people doing this, so if you know about a certain topic, like Mike from Maine does, and you can help people figure it out for themselves, do it.
Yeah,
Make some money off of it. I'm all about that, you know.
yeah. I
Like I
mean,
have a friend who's like a genius with airline miles, complete genius. Like I haven't paid for any of my flights this year because this guy's been teaching me like everything that there is to know, and I literally like hand him my frequent flyer number, and I'm like, do your thing, you know. And I've had conferences and stuff this year, and I haven't paid for any of the flights, and I'm like, you need to teach people how to do this, and you need to charge them for it.
right, right. Yeah, I mean anything that like if you have a skill in something, it just makes sense. Like if you can offer that to someone and make some money from it, then why not? I know like I recently and Andrew suggested this. He suggested putting up like a hire me like tab on my site. So I did it, and I just mentioned that like I have skills with WordPress. Like I know how to build a WordPress site, and surprisingly there's probably a lot of people out there that don't have those skills. Like it took me a lot of time to learn those things. So to be able to teach someone, that's like a valuable skill I might be able to get paid for.
Right, and I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, so one thing that I hear often or that I see often, and I've seen it in my colleagues as well, we've all talked about it, is this idea that because we know something, we kind of assume someone else knows it too, and
Mm,
it's totally not true. Like, like you know how to handle WordPress, so you might think it's a cakewalk by now, and maybe make the assumption that because it's a cakewalk to you, then it must be a cakewalk to everyone, so why would you
right.
charge for it? You know, that's a mentality that I sometimes have to help clients with. It's a lot of mental shifting that goes on around that kind of stuff and around charging for what it is that you're offering.
Right. So now, I guess like I figured I'd maybe like switch the topic and maybe talk a little bit about. I know you're obviously you write as well for your blog. And you mentioned that you started with some freelance writing. Is that still something you're pursuing
Oh
and
yeah, I
working
still do
on? Or?
it. I'm
Okay.
all about diversifying.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, of course, like if I know that that was a big topic that I talked about with Tom because that's basically a big portion of his income. That's like how he's doing so well.
Yeah, that's how I started. That was my gateway drug
Yeah,
to
yeah.
making money for myself. Yeah, I mean, I went to a point where I was literally making like $5 in a month to making 150 for 500 words, and
Wow.
it comes with time and it comes with knowledge and it comes with knowing how to deal with people and becoming more confident. But I mean, I still do it. I'm one of those people, and I'm very big about that side hustle, especially if you've got a full-time job. If you have a means of making extra money, whatever it is, go for it and do it.
Mm,
Because with the state of the economy, yes, it's better than it was, 3 years ago when I moved back home. But I mean, there's still a lot of uncertainty in the air. So God forbid you get a pink slip, or they're doing cutbacks, or they cut your salary, or all this other stuff. You have something to fall back on that you have created all by yourself. And there's nothing more empowering than knowing you can make your own money.
right. Now I know it looks like just from going around your site, like you've done some public speaking as well.
I've done public speaking. I've spoken for local Levo Miami, which is the Miami chapter of Levo League, which for any ladies watching, any millennial career ladies, awesome site, levoleague.com. I've spoken for Women of Tomorrow, which is a nonprofit down here for at-risk teenage girls. I've done workshops at Pure Bar Miami, which is like a ballet bar studio. I'm speaking at Financial Blogger Conference in a few weeks, actually. I'm going to be doing a track there, and that's going to be for newbie bloggers, actually.
That's
And
cool.
it's going to be this around this idea of competition and how it's dead, because I think especially when you're dealing with online business and online entrepreneurs and bloggers, we're like some of the most laid back, chilled, collaborative people around. But for
Yeah.
some reason, when people are just starting out, you hear a lot of, oh, well, someone else, Pat Flynn's already doing something on passive income, so what could I possibly have to say about it? Or, I don't want to, take something from someone else, or there aren't enough subscribers for me, and that's something I hear a lot. So I basically said, no, I gotta teach people how this actually goes.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I mean, I met you 3 weeks ago, and you said, hey, you want to do, an interview? And I was like, yeah, sure, let's do it,
Yeah, yeah.
whatever. And that's how most people are. But for some reason, we have, like, this really weird, like, complex competition thing going on that really stops a lot of people from doing whatever it is they want to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you mentioned that because like when I first came up with the idea of even doing interviews, I actually thought about like I didn't know at the time that there were people like Andrew Warner that had like this show with like almost 1,000 interviews, and
Our Rise to the Top's been around forever, too.
yeah, David Simon Garland, like I follow him really closely as well. I really like his stuff, and he's someone that I plan on reaching out to soon. But he, just all these guys. Like I at first I kind of was thinking of it like, oh my God, everyone's already kind of doing this. Like, can I do this? But I mean, there's so many people. Like, I've had all these people on my show. I had a guy the other day, and like he literally like there was almost a slight language barrier. Like he lives in Malaysia, and he was a little bit hard to understand. Like I actually had to really like focus. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I don't know that anyone's ever interviewed this guy, but he actually had like really knowledgeable information and value to share in the interview, and he had like great opinions on different like various blogging topics and SEO and things like that. And there's just like limitless potential for like me to reach out to people. So why not continue with it and really just make friends with all these guys and let them help me and I can help them. Like I don't have to look at it like, oh no, like they're taking the spotlight.
Yes, exactly. I mean, with newbie entrepreneurs too, I hear it every once in a while. And I mean, number one, let's face it, there is nothing new under the sun. There is probably nothing that you and I can come up with that no one has come up with at some point in time already. That's
Yeah.
number one. So, get over this reinventing the wheel thing. Number two, chances are, if something works for you and something has been proven to work for other people, there is absolutely nothing wrong with going for it. if it's going to get you to where you need to be faster, there's really no need to try and squeeze and scrimmage and figure out how to reinvent the wheel. If something works, just do it.
Right. I mean, something else like on that note is that I've heard a lot of people recently talk about how, like if you're going after something that doesn't exist or really isn't in the market, like maybe a niche you're going after, or anything like just that you're not, that doesn't already exist, like that might be a bad move, because if there isn't anyone interested in that or, doing it already, then there might not be a need for that.
Right, and I help clients, a lot of them, the ones who are starting businesses, I help a lot of them with the whole market research thing. And it sounds like such an icky term,
Yeah.
market research, but I mean, they're literally just like going out asking whoever they think that their client is, and they may not have the crystal clear idea yet, and they may not have a crystal clear idea of what it is they're offering, but they have something. They have
Yeah.
some sort of idea. They know they're onto something. They just may not have the whole picture yet. So what they do is like they've literally just gone to ask people out for coffee, people who they think that those are their ideal clients, and they just start asking them questions, and they're like, how can I serve you? What are you dealing with? I'm thinking about doing this. How can it help you? And there's no better feedback that you're going to get than from actually talking to people.
Yeah.
And I've had clients who have literally like nailed, they've like nailed their first client right then and there without even having everything absolutely perfect, figured out, packaged in a bow. They were literally just asking a question of, this is what I'm thinking of doing. How can I serve you? They nailed their first client right then and there.
Wow. Those are people that started up similar, like, is it coaching or is it
Yeah,
actually
no,
like?
those are my private coaching clients. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've had people making money in 2 weeks. It's like,
Wow.
and it's all because there's a lot of mental shifting around these ideas that people have around business or work or life in general, and helping them realize, okay, what's not working for me? And sometimes it's a very physical thing, like a job or a relationship. Other times it's just something that's completely in our own heads. So I
Yeah.
help them drop that bullshit too.
Yeah, no, that's all good. I mean, do you find that like there's any like the types of people that you end up coaching, like are there like anything specific that they're focused on, or is it very, very diverse?
A lot of them have very altruistic motives. A lot of them have an idea that, and they may not realize it when they first come to me. That's another thing we work on, is them like owning how awesome they are. But a lot of them have they have big ideas, really big, massive ideas that could like change their local community. So for
Yeah.
example, I have a previous client of mine lives in Washington, D.C., and she was the VP of marketing for a tech startup up there. And after like 2 sessions with me, she apparently felt like she was ready to quit her job. And when she came to me, she knew she needed to quit this job. She just didn't know how to go about doing it,
Right.
and the whole idea of trusting herself that what she wants to do, she can make it happen. Now what she's doing is she's putting events in the local Washington, D.C. area for women, empowering them around the conversations of money and career and helping them become financially independent. I have another client who is a stylist, but she's not just a stylist. She wants to completely change the way people see the fashion industry. She wants to take an industry that has been notoriously known for being very superficial and full of eating disorders and all this kind of stuff, and she wants to completely turn that on its head and teach people, clothes is an expression. You can feel good with
Right.
clothes. You can feel good with the way that you look. And she got that idea because working in the industry, she got really, freaked out by what was going on, and she started to not like it. So I said, okay, so how can you fix it? And there was her business idea.
Right. Right. That's pretty cool.
You know, I have another client who is a personal trainer, and she wants to focus on helping people deal with stress. We live in a really big city. I live in Miami, Florida.
Yeah.
Huge metropolitan traffic, crazy. Like, I make a joke that this is like slow enough for a New Yorker on vacation, because New Yorkers are very like go, 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 go.
Yeah.
And so is Miami, but not like New York. But it's enough for a New Yorker, you know?
Nice. I've
Um,
never been to New York or Florida, so.
well, Florida is different from Miami, but that's a conversation for another time. It's like, New York City is different from the rest of New York State. It's the same thing with
Right,
Miami and the
right.
rest of the state. Um, but anyway, we're dealing with people who are working full-time jobs, city life, kids, family, all this stuff, and she wants to come up with a program to help the local community learn how to handle stress through movement.
Yeah,
So all of my clients, although they may not realize it at the time, they all have a very big idea and they all want to give back. It's not just about them making money. Obviously, they want to put a roof over their head and make all the money that they can
yeah,
doing something that they love. But what they love, more often than not, involves giving back.
yeah. Yeah, I mean that's a good way to go about it, and that's like I feel like some of the most successful people online, like they're just constantly giving away information for free and helping people, and it just I feel like people like I guess they give when they feel that they're getting something for free or they're getting value from someone that they just you know they return it. Like that's how I've always been. I mean, I know that one of the folks that I interviewed, I recently wrote a post and I like featured him in it and basically like made it almost like I used a story about how we started talking and how he's helped me and because he's like stuck with me after the interviews and been like, oh yeah, I'm listening to your shows and like you're doing a lot better and he's like making suggestions and like he's like really helping me out whereas like a lot of people like I haven't talked to them since we did the interview.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what it is really. It's just that human connection. And I think sometimes what makes that so awesome is we're living in a world where we're constantly connected. Like you're either on Twitter or on Google or on Facebook or your Android over here or constantly go 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 always on the internet that I mean, I know there have been articles about this. I personally didn't see it while I was interviewing a bunch of millennials, but there have been a lot of articles about how like people have kind of forgotten how to even have a conversation. you know, I personally
I
didn't
wouldn't be
see it.
surprised.
Yeah, I personally didn't see it while I was interviewing people, but I know there's been a bunch of articles about it and stuff. So I think part of what is so awesome about building relationships is we're so used to our Facebook lives. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's not real life.
Yeah, it's funny. I started just watching the show with my girlfriend recently. It's called Revolution. I don't know if you've heard of it.
No, I don't
The
think so.
whole concept of the show is it's on Netflix, but the whole concept of the show is basically this: there's a blackout and all the electricity and all of phones, anything that has power, completely dead. And the show is like 15 years forward in time, and the governments have shut down and everyone's like using horses again, and there's just like plants that have grown over everything, and it's like people have to like relearn how to like do all these things. And in the show, like I'm only on the second episode, but it's so interesting. Like the woman in the show has an iPhone, and obviously it doesn't work anymore because all the power, everything, no batteries, cars, nothing works. And she talks about how like all her photos of her kids and everything are like on the phone, and she has no physical photos of them. And like that's the only way she could ever see them because like I don't know, I think they're gone elsewhere. Like it hasn't explained it yet in the story, but I just thought it was like so interesting that like technology is like become such a crutch for people.
Yep, it's kind of scary. I mean, I love technology. I think because of the internet, it's easier than ever for people to start businesses. If it wasn't for the internet, I probably never would have even dreamed of working for myself.
Yeah,
And if it wasn't for the recession. It's like a mix of like the recession and the internet. Like
yeah,
but at the same time, it just goes back to that idea. It doesn't matter how many Twitter followers you have. You need to actually talk to them. That's how you're
right.
going to make money. That's how you're going to do what you want to do is by actually talking to them. And I've made some of the coolest friends, obviously, since I've started blogging and stuff like that and getting to know people. I've got friends everywhere, like because
Right, right.
of this. Like I go to cities and crash on couches, and it's awesome. It's so cool, and I've had clients that I've coached in Europe, and they've even told me like, hey, if you're ever here, just crash on a couch,
Yeah,
and
that's
it's
awesome.
so cool. But that didn't come from Twitter followers. That came from me actually calling them, emailing them, talking to them on Skype, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and it makes perfect sense, really. Like once people start to get to know one another, it's just a given, really. People are gonna become more gracious and helpful, and help you out.
Yeah, I mean, it's human nature, in my opinion. Like, if you provide value to someone, they're going to provide it right back. And I think it's also like providing value with no strings attached.
Yeah.
I think that's part of it. And I know there's always a big debate on like, oh, should I charge for this or should I not charge for this? And, obviously I think people should charge for their gifts and their services, and I think they should be able to make a living off of it. And usually what I ask people, what I tell people to do, or what I advise them, like, look, your free content has got to be good. Just because it's free, don't think that it could be crap. It's got to be good. What
Yeah.
that means is the stuff that you're charging for has got to be really good.
Mm. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, like, I know with like, I've been through like a lot of courses and things and seen what people have done, and I know that there's something I'm working on, like a small project. I won't get into too detail, but something that this fellow's doing, like that he's doing with his course, I find is really useful. Like he offers a ton of really good value in like a report that he gives away for free, and anyone can get it. They just sign up on his mailing list, and basically it tells you exactly what the course is about. But if you buy the course, then you really get like the details, like the really nitty gritty of it, and it'll guide you through everything. And
Right.
it's
So
very
like with my website, for example, it sends you a link to a live coaching workshop that I did for
yeah,
local label Miami, all about like goal setting and all that kind of stuff, and the actual like worksheet template, which is like a month-long thing to help you achieve what your next big thing is in the next month. It's pretty good, right? Not gonna lie, I did pretty well in that workshop.
yeah, yeah.
I watched it back, I was like, oh wow, Um, and I've gotten a lot of compliments and I've found clients that way. But that is totally not the same thing as customized, tailored, one-on-one coaching with me, where
Yeah.
it's you and me on Skype dealing specifically with what it is you want.
Right. No, I think that is the one-on-one is really pretty powerful because you can do quite a bit. Like I know I've done even just group calls with like 2 or 3 people, and I just feel like there's like a lot of focus taken away in some cases, like depending on what the topic is about or what it is that we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, and in the group calls, sometimes it's a lot more teaching and lecturing with some group coaching in there because it is a common theme. Like you find a common theme among what your clients are dealing with and you go for it. Which is great because you can offer it at a lower price point for people who maybe can't afford one-on-one coaching with you. But there is, and I can attest to it, and I believe in what it is I'm doing because I've done it for myself.
Right.
The only reason my business is even in existence right now and I'm living the way I want to be living is because I asked for help and I got one-on-one coaching.
Right.
It's the only reason I mean, I had all the pieces, but I was I couldn't do it by myself, and the only reason I am where I am is because I've done one-on-one coaching with someone that I really related to and someone who I knew understood what my message is. And she's not even just a coach to me, she's also a mentor because she's been where I am.
Right.
And that is something that I also offer to a lot of clients, that because I've been where they are, I know what they're going through. I know what it feels like, not just in the technical, how much money do you have to make every month, but also in the, are you feeling okay? Because I know you've got a lot going on right now. Let's check in and see how you're doing emotionally.
Right. Yeah, makes sense. I guess something else I thought I'd ask too is I know like obviously me and you we got to do like kind of like 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 you offered a free call just to see kind of what it is like you're offering in terms of your coaching and obviously for you to get to know me. Is that something that like you're doing typically all the time
Oh, I do
or?
it all the time. Yeah, I do it all the time. Number one, I like meeting cool people.
Yeah.
And number two, it's one of the best ways for me to find clients and find people that I love to work with.
Yeah.
And it's also a really cool way that I've gotten to meet readers because I'm not new to the online world. I've been blogging for a long time.
Right.
But it's so cool to actually put a face and a voice with some of these people. I mean,
Right.
before they were just like an email on a subscriber list, and I had no idea who they were. So, some of them come on as clients, and it's cool because they were ready for it, and I invited them, and all that kind of stuff, and others just really give me a lot of insight into what it is, my market is dealing with right now. And that helps me tailor free content, or it helps me know what's going to come up for clients and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's awesome. So, I mean, I guess I figured I'd ask for anyone that's like listening, if I, send them over to your site, is they could probably email you and get in touch if they're interested
Yeah,
in
you
doing like.
can you can sign up on the site, or you can just actually, I don't know if there's anywhere to type it here, but if you go to amandaabella.com/scheduler,
Okay,
you'll see my
I'll leave a
calendar.
link in the show notes and people can
Yeah,
check that
you
out
can
that
go
way.
there and just pick the Fire Up Your Biz option. And it's a 30-minute, half-hour laser coaching session where we get crystal clear on whatever is blocking you from pursuing that work that you really want to be doing. And we also start coming up with an action plan right then and there. And I do it completely for free. A lot of times it's stuff you can start implementing right away. I've had people that after those calls, they already have, their market research done and prospective clients on the way. I've had others who just after half an hour um, realized, oh wow, I didn't know that was really there in terms of something that's stopping me. Now I'm aware of it and I need to do something about it.
Yeah.
So I do those all the time. I work with a lot of people who are in situations like, day jobs or relationships or living situations or something big that you feel is really stopping you from pursuing that work that it is you really know you should be doing and know that you can do. I also work with people who are basically at their wits' end trying to figure out the online business thing.
Yeah.
Um, and I work with people who've been talking about a side business but don't really have one.
Right. Right.
And I work with, freelance writers, bloggers, creatives, personal trainers. I've had like energy workers that I've worked with them. Um, yeah, I deal with a lot of consultants, coaches. I deal with a lot of people who are doing a lot of service-based stuff.
Cool. Cool. All right. Yeah. I mean, I figured I'd wrap it up with that. And if anyone wants to obviously check out your site, I know it's amandaabella.com. I'll leave a link in the show notes. And yeah, thanks for taking the time out of your day or Saturday in the afternoon to join me for this interview.
Well, that's the cool thing about working for yourself is you just make your own schedule. So,
Yeah.
for
Exactly.
example, I completely took yesterday off. Like, I watched trashy TV all day long yesterday.
Nice.
And I said, okay, well, you know what? I'll work on Saturday. It's no big deal.
Yeah,
I
why
mean,
not? I've been doing a lot of my interviews on the weekends. It's pretty surprising how many people want to do it on the weekends.
well, because you can get a lot of work done on the weekends. It's surprising. Like,
Yeah.
I've set up my schedule in a way where it's like I spend 4 days a week on calls talking to people all day long. That on Fridays I'm just like introvert me time, you know. But
Yeah,
when you're
yeah.
doing your own thing, you're allowed to do that.
Exactly, exactly. Cool. All right, well, I appreciate having you on and taking your time out of your day.
Oh, thank you for asking me to do this. It was so much fun.
Yep. All right, I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.